All right, wake up, 49er fans. It is a beautiful Monday, May 6th, out your front door here in the Bay Area, and it's wonderful to have you back here. Like and subscribe. Damon Bruce, Larry Krueger. It's time to wake up. Good morning, Larry.
What is up? We're off and running on a Monday. Big Monday. Big Monday.
Hey, I'm just saying, if you watched Friday's show, we gave you a winner right off the rip. Larry, I even told you, don't put too much stock into the prediction, but sure enough, Mystic Dan wins one of the most watched Kentucky Derbies on record with a photo finish for the ages. I mean, that was right out of a movie.
It's funny too. I have not watched this race because I was at a Little League game on Saturday, right in the afternoon when it was going on. Or I was out. No, I was out doing stuff. I was like shopping at that point because the Little League game got rained out, pushed to Sunday. But I didn't, I went to go look at it again, and I hit Kentucky Derby, and it's like, oh well, the replay is like tomorrow night, so I still haven't seen it yet. I only saw the highlights of it.
I mean, it really is a three-way photo finish that is, I'm talking about a head bob from determining a different winner. But it was pretty good. I tell you, when the Kentucky Derby gets its short skirt on and has its, official bugle and call to the post, it feels like something big in sports is about to happen. Then you get that majestic first turn with the grandstand and the twin spires in the back. And it's just, it's Americana. It's good stuff. So
it's so funny because I turned on Fox Sports Radio and they had some little girl on there with somebody else, and I don't know who she was. And she's like, I hate the Kentucky Derby. The horses don't want to race. It's cruelty to animals. And it's like, just shut the fuck up.
Yeah,
seriously, just shut the fuck up.
This is why we don't
if you
have
know
children.
that little about, and if you know that little about horse racing, if you can't appreciate it, it's like, that's fine. Just say, I don't know shit. But just to sit there and call on a national radio platform, even on a syndicated format, to call for the abolishment of the entire sport, it's like armed with nothing other than the horses don't want to run. It's like,
and by the way, bullshit. Those horses were, if I could quote Bruce Springsteen, born to run. They get their rocks off running. Those horses love running. And, especially when your father was a mutter and your mother was a mutter, and now we're doing Seinfeld bits. But anyways, the Kentucky Derby was
it's a great sporting event, and I've never been, but I would love to go.
Yeah. Joe Schmo says, now on stage, Mystic Dan. Oh, there's no doubt. Mystic Dan 100% sounds like a male stripper. And that's who won the Kentucky Derby. So we'll see if Mystic Dan can put the second leg of the Triple Crown in the books. And,
can you tell us anything about Mystic Dan? What was it? A chestnut horse? What is it? Was it a bay horse? Was it a black horse? Is it a white horse? Who was the jockey? Can you give us anything on Mystic Dan?
He won the Kentucky Derby, 4 legs, strong nose bob at the end. I got nothing for you.
No jockey.
I can't tell you who was on for the ride. I don't know who it was. Okay. But there you go. Big old ratings winner, Kentucky Derby. We needed something to do on Saturday, and we got it.
So Saturday in May. There you go.
There it is. A tradition unlike any other. And now we get sued by Augusta. So let's see, Larry, in terms of 49ers news, there is proof that there is not a lot of 49ers news out there, because right now this Willie Snead story is being passed off as the news the weekend surrounding the San Francisco 49ers. And I'm guessing the vast majority of people who are watching us right now have no idea what we're even talking about, because it's really not news. It's just one of those, hey, this is a clickbaity story. Maybe we can get people to click on it. Willie Snead, who, essentially was a Niner, but did nothing to be remembered, but for maybe this moment right here. According to Jordan Elliott of NBC Bay Area, he spent the last 2 seasons with the Niners. He appeared in 8 games, but the 9-year NFL veteran seemingly implied that his workload should have been greater during his stint in the Bay Area. In other words, veteran losing grip on career wants more playing time. This is not a big story. Snead took to Twitter, where he made a post referencing his desire to return to a team that allows players to compete for roster spots. Quote, all I want is to get back to a team that isn't afraid to let guys compete for a roster spot. These last 3 years have been nothing short of entitlement. Competition breeds champions. So, a little bit of a shot there, maybe because you're not letting guys compete in practice, why we haven't won a championship around here in San Francisco is what he's implying. I would also immediately turn back and be like, dude, you couldn't beat out Juwan Jennings. There's not a lot of guys from practice squads on any roster unseating starting X and Y wide receivers. So the question is, can you beat Juwan Jennings? And the answer for most of your time in San Francisco was no. No, you can't. Can you make yourself a useful, valuable member of special teams, a team, a group that was craving Larry, somebody to just come on out and take this job and do well with it? Willie Snead couldn't break that. So there you go. I guess the biggest Niners is Willie Snead's taking to social media to sow some sour grapes.
Yeah. I mean, it does come across like sour grapes, but okay, there's a lot going on here. Okay, first of all, all these people just pouring all kinds of hate on Willie Snead don't. He's a great guy. He's as good a guy as there is in that locker room. He's as respected as any voice in that room. This is all kind of a situational thing that has come about because of kind of the evolution of the the NFL salary cap. So the NFL or the NFL practice squad, I should say. The NFL created the practice squad, and it was at first in its first edition like 4 guys. So you had your 53 guys in your roster, then you had 4 more guys. So it was 57 total spots. Then they realized that it wasn't enough. So they jumped it from 4 to 8. Then they realized that really wasn't enough. And so they jumped it from 8 to 16. So now we have 16 practice squad spots per team. And then they changed the rule, and I wasn't sure if it was last year or 2 years ago. Maybe it was 2 years ago, where the practice squad, Damon, didn't have to be like, guys that were just drafted or young guys. It could literally be like a taxi squad of anybody, and it could be veterans. And then when that rule was changed, many teams like the Niners proliferated their practice squad with, let's say, if there's 16 spots, maybe 13 young guys who are undrafted free agents that they want to develop, and then like 3 like veterans who weren't quite good enough to make their team, but also weren't developmental players. These are veterans, guys who've been around the league.
Break glass in case of emergency type players.
Right. And this is so they could get away from the, on Thursday he was working at Krueger's, and on Sunday he started for the Colts. It's like that story started to become, since you're charging full freight for the tickets, it's like, do we really want it? We're a $25 billion industry. Do we want a guy that was working at Krueger's on Wednesday playing in an NFL game on Sunday? It's a cute story, but does it really make us look good? And they decided no, and that they wanted to improve the quality of play. So they added veterans to the practice squad, and the Niners added 2 or 3 veteran players. So then let's fast forward to, let's say weeks 10 through 15 or something like that, the last couple seasons. And when a receiver went out, whether it be Debo, Jennings, Ayuk, any of their top receivers went out, they didn't promote Danny Gray. They didn't promote Tay Martin. They didn't promote, those guys. They promoted Willie Snead and Chris Conley. And those guys came off the practice squad, and the veteran guys, and they played and they used them. And a lot of times it was like, hey, we don't know what we're going to do. We got this guy, he's hurt and he's dinged up, and we don't know. Willie's here and Chris is here and they're practicing. We're not sure. And then Saturday they come out with the designation. We're recalling Willie off the practice squad. We're recalling Conley off the practice squad. They're going to be active on Sunday. Okay, so then we have that whole group of players. So those players, in a way, are practicing every week. They're making practice squad money, which is not regular squad money. It's far less than the league minimum. And they're there for you in a pinch. And the Niners broke that glass and used Willie Snead more than a couple times, and did the same thing with Conley. And I think now here we are in the offseason, and the Niners are formulating their 90-man camp roster. And I bet you his agent probably reached out to the Niners and said, hey, can Willie get a camp roster spot in Santa Clara this summer? And the Niners, who just drafted Pearsall and Cowing, now have Pearsall and Cowing and JJ and Debo and Ayuk. So they're really probably only going to carry 5 receivers. They may carry a 6th, but they still have Trent Taylor, Danny Gray, Tay Martin, Tariq Owens, Terrell Owens' son.
More than
they have
else,
Ronnie Bell. You know what I'm saying? Guys who were passed over last year. So I think what's going on here is just Willie saying, hey, man, when you were dying in a pinch, you're using me. But and where's Danny Gray? He's nowhere to be heard from. Was he hurt? He had an injury, but he wasn't hurt by the time week 13 rolled around. You just didn't trust him. So you used me and you paid me nothing. And now here it is for me to get a camp roster spot. And you're going back to Danny Gray and Tay Martin, even though they didn't do jack for you. And you're, kicking me to the curb and saying, go find a new home. And it's just situational because it's like a veteran group subsection of players that have been created that are kind of like thought of around the league as good enough for the veteran roster spot or 2 on the practice squad, but not quite good enough for the 53. And so he's kind of in a limbo. I'm not saying he's poor because I think the practice squad guys make a couple $100,000, but I think the league minimum is like $700,000. So it's a good $500,000 south of the league minimum. And I'm sure Willie and his wife, and he's tired of it. He's like, hey man, I'm your super dependable guy when you need me, and I'm there for you, but you can't get me a roster spot. And the reality is just not enough room at the inn, and he's probably got to go somewhere else.
Look, it's for Willie. He is he's just in a situation where he is doesn't matter nearly as how much more profit can he squeeze out of his football career, which is dwindling based on, on-field production, on-field opportunity. And he won't find more opportunity as he steps into his age 31 season. That's just the way it is, guys.
And it's unfortunate because he's playing at a very high level. Like when you watch him practice, he's as good a route runner as they have. He looks as good as any of the receivers on the field. And when he's been utilized, he's played well. He's just been kind of caught in this. I've been on 4 teams. I'm on the wrong side of 30, or, I'm an aging player. I'm viewed as kind of a yesterday player and not a tomorrow player. So nobody wants to invest any time in me, but he's a very useful NFL receiver who is good enough to play. I mean, if you just say there's 32 teams in the NFL, there's 5 to 6 receivers in every team. He's one of the receiver, one of the best, whatever number of receivers, and should and probably will be on an NFL roster. But this is what's going on more than anything.
Look, when guys don't get many bites at the apple, they want more apple. This is very human nature, basic stuff. We see it in every office that we've ever worked in. The guy who's pretty damn good, but just doesn't get the opportunities that she feels they're afforded at this point in time. And, it just happens. I don't know what going to social media does to make Willie Snead look better or more desirable to another team. This is one of those things where I just think it's better to just say nothing. But he went public with it. He even said, flock fans, which I'm guessing is what, Falcons fans, Who Dat Nation, Saints fans, always been good to me. Some real ones. The faithful have a great fan base as well. I only wish I could have given y'all more of what I had to offer. And, on some level, I'm sure the 49ers feel that way too. When Willie got out there, Larry, you said that he was really good when he got out there. I have no memories of Willie Snead being evaluated as really good, needs more, got to have more, got to see more Willie Snead in any moment that we actually saw him. Again, there's nothing wrong with that, but he never stood out in a single touch of a football in any opportunity he ever had to touch the football in my mind. So, it's a numbers game. And when you're on the wrong side of 30 as a wide receiver and being edged out now by young draft picks who the 49ers want to see what they got more than what Willie Snead's got left. That's, it's just kind of the way it goes. It's tough, man. The NFL's tough.
It's welcome to America in 2024. There's all kinds of, there's young people in our industry that aren't as good as us that are doing jobs that, working for major radio stations that really don't have any experience, don't have any really strong talent, but they're in the right place at the right time for the right price, and they're willing to make it happen. And it's like, do you want to be bitter about it, or do you just want to be like, hey, it's life, it's the way it is? And I just think, I think there's a lot of people in a lot of different industries that have been replaced by younger, cheaper, younger, cheaper, in some cases healthier people that are going to cost the corporation less. And you can say to them, it's like, hey, they're a relative nobody, and nobody else would hire them. And so because of that, you can say to them, hey, you know what? In a 23-day stretch, we want you to work 21 days. We want you to work till 11 o'clock at night on a Wednesday and get to the station the next morning at 6 a.m. because we have a need for you. So, and these guys would do it because it's like, hey, man, I'm getting an opportunity in major market radio.
Right. So I get to cut the line. I mean, you get to abuse me, but in abusing me, I cut the line. Sure, I'll cut the line. That's
I mean, I was going to have to go to Bakersfield and hang out there and show what I got, and then go to Visalia, and then go to Santa Barbara, and instead I can just hang out here and make less money and work till midnight, and then show up the next day at 6 a.m. and do it all over again.
I can go from Marty Lurie's call screener to morning drive. Okay, I'll do it. It's just the way it is. It's just the way it is. But I will say this: I definitely want to push back on the people crushing Willie Snead, because Willie Snead's a great dude. I mean, seriously. And if Kyle Shanahan were sitting here right now and we were having this discussion, he would be explaining the Niners side of things, and also stating that Willie Snead's a great dude who he loves, respects, and admires. It's just right. But look,
this is what happened when the NFL created this 16-member practice squad, and then they made that adjustment and said, "Oh, it's not all for first and second year players. Now you can get any player in any age on the practice squad." Well, they kind of created a little subculture or a subsection, at least, of players who are viewed as they're almost stained by the fact they're on the practice squad. Yeah, he was on a blankety blank practice squad last year. Oh, so he's like a good guy who will take one for the team. And then it's like, yeah, but then also there's a stigma that goes with it. Like, oh, he's good enough for a practice squad, but not quite good enough for the roster. But then when the bullets are flying and you got to win freaking football games, and you're calling anybody who can help you win off the practice squad, and you keep calling this guy, and then all of a sudden it's time to give him a 90-man roster spot for camp, and you're like, no, dude, that spot's going to Danny Gray. Danny Gray might as well be a plumber. He's never played ever. I mean, Tay Martin might as well be a ticket taker. He's never played ever. You know what I mean? But there's upside to Danny Gray. There's upside to Tay Martin. There's upside to the young guys, and the older guys are viewed as
they're on the right side of 30. They're on the
right
side of 30.
His phone's going to ring, but it's not going to ring until the games start, and suddenly they need guys who can actually play potentially. And the Niners are not going to call him back, most likely, but there will be some team that will say, yeah, come in for a workout. And then what happens is literally you got guys like Willie Snead who are, 6, 7, 8-year vets, 10-year vets maybe, and they're showing up at a facility, Minnesota Vikings facility, on a Tuesday to work out against 3 undrafted guys and 2 other veterans that are younger to show. So he's got to keep showing that he's one of the X number of best guys. So I feel for him, because he feels like he's been, hey man, when you needed me, I was there for you. And now that I need you, you're not there for me. You're still invested in trying to develop Danny Gray and Tay Martin. I know where he's coming from, but I don't necessarily blame the Niners, because who wouldn't? I mean, it's all about upside and potential and tomorrow, and it's not as much about yesterday and what you did and what you can even potentially do today.
Well, and for the Niners specifically in their last handful of seasons, it's these have not been let's develop years. This has been, if you can help us win today, you're playing today years. And Willie still didn't crack the code. And the reason why fans might be coming down his kitchen,
well, we know why.
As hard as they're
a pro team, and he's going against their team, and so
but he does. He says,
literally do a video that's anti-Niners, and then look at your comments.
Right,
there'll be all kinds of people coming down your road going, you don't know Jack, because they're aligned with the team. That's fine to be aligned with the team, but as somebody who actually knows the players and met the players and talked to the players, this is a really, really respected guy in the room, and to see him crushed on social media. With all these people, he's crap, and he's always been crap.
Right, I mean, here's the thing, though, Larry, but he's a big boy, and he did fire the first shot.
He's expressing frustration, but it's professional frustration. Sure. I'm just saying many of the comments have crossed over from professional reaction to. Fans, I do.
People are going to be assholes on social media. To expect anything different is just, you don't even know what you're walking into. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but I mean, all I'm saying is I'm pushing back on that, saying, hey, you know what? You're crushing a guy who is probably one of the 5 or 6 most respected people in the entire locker room, and you're doing it just because what's his big problem here? He wants to play. He wants to be on the team. He feels like he's good enough to be on the team. And there's guys that aren't as good as him that are going to be given camp spots, and he's not going to be afforded that. And he's expressing frustration. That's human nature. Right. That's again, totally relatable.
He accuses the 49ers of being some preferential treatment group of bitches, is what he's also doing. He's saying, all I want is to go back to a team that isn't afraid to let guys compete for a roster spot. In other words, had you let me out there, you would have won your Super Bowl by now, is what he's saying. Competition breeds champions. The last 3 years have been nothing short of entitlement. All right. I mean, let's just look at it from that angle. Because Willie Snead, you might say, is one of the 5, 6 most respected guys in the locker room. You've never said that before right now. So I feel like you're kind of serving a moment with that praise more than
not reality. When have we ever talked about Willie Snead, period?
Exactly. Well, that's the thing.
If we had, I would have told you the truth. I'm just telling you, from somebody who stands nose to nose with these guys and talks to these guys, if you had a poll of who's the most respected guy in the room, and you pass that around in the Niner locker room, Willie Snead would be at or near the top of the list. He's a wise, respected, good teammate who practices very hard, brings it every time. I mean, I understand why he's getting criticized. I'm just saying, for the people that are getting incredibly negative and personal, it's like, dude, you have no idea who you're even talking about.
Do you think Kyle Shanahan is not allowing guys to compete for roster spots? Do you think that is absolutely
to some degree? Yes.
Reality?
To some degree. Yeah. To some degree. I mean, it's not about, it's just about, I would say to Willie, look, I mean, I would say different things to different people. To the fans, I'm saying, shame on you. Stop getting personal with this guy. He's a really, really good dude. To Willie, I would say, hey, Willie, this is the game of personnel. I mean, John Lynch invested a 3rd-round draft choice in Danny Gray. He's been a bust so far. John Lynch is going to give his 3rd-round draft choice every chance possible to succeed. So Danny Gray's got a roster spot this summer on a Niner roster that's pretty deep, based on doing nothing other than John Lynch wants to try to make his 3rd-round draft choice look good. So yeah, there's an investment and there's reputation on the line, and so it's just the way it is. It's nobody's fault, as I just explained. It's born out of rules changes and trying to improve the product, and Willie kind of fell into this subsection of veterans, and then I think there's now a stigma that comes with that. So then you're kind of looked at as, Well, he's kind of a practice squad veteran.
Yeah, I know.
You know
You've
what I
always
mean?
said this, but I guess I'm saying that there is no NFL team whose first two wide receivers can like be challenged and beaten out really in any week of practice, right? That does not happen. This isn't, freshmen can challenge seniors on a Thursday at the end of practice to see whether or not you could climb up the depth chart. That's not how the NFL works. So he's not. And here's the thing, too. Willie Snead, God bless you. You ain't better than Deebo Samuel, and you ain't better than Brandon Ayuk.
And he's not claiming he is.
And now you beat out Juwan Jennings. And the answer was a decisive no, you didn't beat that guy out either. Did you beat out Ray McLeod? The answer there was no. Did you beat out Chris Conley? The answer there was no. So it sounds like
there were guys who were up who he feels that he was better than. That's his point.
But it's not
he
like
feels like he was better
either.
than Ronnie Bell. He
But
feels
they
like
weren't
he was
playing
better.
either, Larry. They hardly played either. So like it's
right, but it's not about playing, Damon.
Arguing about
money.
Snaps.
It's about money. We're talking about money. If you're on the roster, you get paid minimum of $700,000. If you're not on the roster, you're making $205,000. So a prorated portion of that. So that's what we're talking about. That we're just talking about money, and we're just talking about, hey, you drafted Ronnie Bell, so he gets the promotion on game day, and you drafted Danny Gray, so he gets 5 chances, even though to this point he hasn't been able to prove that he can even play dead. And I'm sure he's looking at that going, hey, man, how about stop giving all these spots to all these guys who have never proven anything. And, I'm there for you when you need me to win big games or at least be active on game day down the stretch where, and they probably, and I don't know the dialogue, but, maybe they're like, hey, take one for the team. And, this will all benefit you at the end. And now he's getting to the end and it's not benefiting him. I don't know. Maybe they I don't know what they coaxed him in with, but he was like almost too good for the position he was in.
Well,
and now he's kind of sitting there going, I've got a stigma and nobody will give me anything but a practice squad thing. And he just, I don't know, he's venting, and I don't know who he vented to or what the context was.
He's going to be on a new roster before next year. So wherever he ends up, let's see if he cracks their starting receiver group. And if he does, maybe he's got a point. Maybe if Willie Snead goes to the Pro Bowl, he will, we'll have to come back to this and be like, maybe Willie was right. But outside of that, let's see where he goes and what that situation looks like for him and how much different it really is with the Niners or just where he is in his career. And I feel that we've already given Willie Snead more attention than needed.
It's there, he's blaming the Niners. That I don't blame. I personally don't think the Niners are to blame here.
No,
everybody's going to try to put their best foot forward and get the best players on the field possible that are ready to win games. And it's just a situational thing. It's just unfortunate.
So let's see. What else do we have from an actual that is NFL news department? It's very little. I can tell you that Thursday, the 9th, few days from now, Larry, NFL schedules will drop, which will be news. That'll give us a very interesting Friday wake up to do together at 8:45. Please like and subscribe, hit notify, miss nothing. But we're going to have our NFL schedules officially laid out. And, it's funny.
It means everything for the 49ers. It means absolutely everything.
I would get into this big argument with Ray Ratto because Ray didn't like to cover what he would call procedural things. Like, the schedule coming out isn't that much of news. Now, when you find out who the team is going to be playing the following year, that schedule announcement, when you find out what other division you're crossing over to play against, like, I'll agree.
Right.
There's not a
Week
lot of
17
there. But where there is when the actual schedule and the order in which games come out and where's your bye week, that does matter. Like, that's absolutely what I would tell Ray. Come on, this is, there's a real big difference between having to play the Bills and Chiefs in back-to-back weeks or having those games spread out. So don't tell me that this doesn't matter. It does.
Oh, it matters. It matters hugely.
Sure.
And to me, not only does it matter, we're talking about a sport like football where rest means everything. Like if you give a baseball team 3 weeks off, that's a nightmare. They play, it's a daily sport. The team that has 10 days off in the playoffs usually goes down in the next round because
that's why division winners disappear and wild card winners win World Series.
Right. Because it's a daily sport and there's a rhythm to it and the repetitions are required and you don't want rest. But in football, the more rest, the better, especially late in the year. And one of the things that, to me, the biggest factor of NFL games, and I read the Warren Sharp, it was a Warren Sharp article I read last year. It's never grouped. Like, think about it. You go to ESPN.com. It's week 1. You're looking at a list of the week 1 matchups. What do you see? You see the matchups, the home teams on the bottom, the road teams on top. Their records are next to it. They've now injected the point spread and the over-under in the margin, right? So you're getting who's at home, who's playing, their records to that point, and the point spread and the over-under. But the key factor that needs to be in right next to that is the rest. And if you look at it, like I forget what it was last year. I think last year the Bears had like 13 different games where they had a rest disadvantage. The Jets, who lots of people believe that the league was rooting for the Jets and Aaron Rodgers because of the TV potential tied to the New York market to reach the playoffs. The Jets had a rest advantage,
right?
Like 17 times. Yeah. 17 times. It was like 14 times in 17 games. It was some ridiculous thing. And then when you go to see, like, sometimes it's like one day, right? Like you played on a Saturday, we played on a Sunday, and now we're playing next week, and you have one extra day or whatever. But sometimes, like when the Niners played the Bengals, for example, the Bengals rolled in with a 13-day rest advantage. Now, how did that happen? Because the Niners, I think, had played or maybe the Bengals had played on a Thursday, then they had their bye week. So they rolled in with like a 13-day rest advantage. Damon, they destroyed the Niners.
Yeah.
And they looked so much sharper. They looked like they thoroughly outclassed the 49ers. But that's what 13 days of extra rest potentially can do. So the next week when the Niners played the Eagles, I believe the Eagles had a rest disadvantage. So it's like this is the factor that the gamblers do look at that the public really doesn't spend any time looking at. Like, ask yourself this. Have you bet an NFL game in the last 5 years? And then ask yourself, before you bet on that game, did you check to see the rest advantage ratio between the two teams that were playing? And most people don't. Most people never look at it. So the other reason the schedule's so vital, the Niners play this year, is it Jacksonville and Miami, or is it Tampa and Miami? But they play two of the Florida teams, and one of them's Miami. Well, if you're playing the Florida teams in September, you're screwed. You're screwed. They practice in that. They live in that humidity. They practice in it. You got guys cramping up. They're not used to it. They're sweating profusely. They're not used to that ridiculous humidity in Miami in September, first week in September. So, and then if you're playing Buffalo, if you get them in October or September, you're good. But if you get them after December 1st, you're screwed. And the Niners play Green Bay, I believe. Is that going to be home or road? And is that going to be, I think we know, but I mean, I think that might be home. But like, you know what I'm saying? The Niners have a couple of cold weather games. And if they're in December, they're screwed. But and they got a couple really, really hot weather games. And if they're in September, they're screwed. So
right. You'd much rather go to Green Bay in the frozen tundra before it's frozen.
Right. You want to go to Buffalo in September, and you want to go to Miami in Thanksgiving. You know what I mean? And if you can do that, your schedule's not nearly as hard. So
look,
it's not just it's when they play.
Well, and if you would like to see what can a schedule do to either, buoy or destroy your season, just look in the rearview mirror at the Philadelphia Eagles just last year. Remember how great of a start the Eagles got off to? They were cooking. I mean, absolutely cooking with fish grease. They get to their bye week in week 10. They go to Kansas City. They win a thriller in Kansas City. But then the schedule turns into the Incredible Hulk, because after that, it's Buffalo. And then after that, it was San Francisco. Then after that, Dallas, Seattle. And that's when it all started falling apart for the Eagles, when all of these really good teams were stacked on top of each other week after week after week. And no matter how good you are, overcoming all of that was just a little bit too much for Sirianni and crew. And it undid what was up to the bye week, a start that made the Eagles look nothing shorter than the presumptive Super Bowl favorite. I mean, they were incredible, and then it all fell apart.
Well, and I always look to September. It seems to me that the Raiders, now I'm not a Raider fan, and I don't care about the Raiders, and it doesn't, but I would say that there's been at least a few years where I feel like the Raiders only have one winnable game in the first month of the year. So it's like you are going to get off to a 1-3 start, and that's if you are lucky. There's a potential for 0-4, and everybody knows the stats. If you lose the first 2 games, your chances of making the playoffs drop dramatically. You lose that third game, and it's like you're in dire straits. Yeah, you're in dire straits. So, I mean, what happens if you're a team? Let's just say you're the Colts, and you're just a middle of the road team. And you get Chiefs at Arrowhead, Niners at Levi's, Rams in LA to start the year. And all of a sudden it's like, you're not that bad of a team, but you're 0-3. So the schedule makers, the schedule means an awful lot. But to me, the one part about the schedule that is unfair, people say on any given Sunday, that go look at these upsets that you you see around the NFL. I would say if you go and charted it over the last couple of years, you would find that teams that, these big upsets, the team that pulled the upset and won the game had a rest advantage on on the team that they played. So to me, that's the one part of the NFL schedule that is I think the manipulation part. It's like, hey, we want Aaron Rodgers and the Jets in the playoffs. We'll give them 14 games out of 17 where they have a rest advantage. Well, that's all we can do, right? And still, he blows out his Achilles on the first drop back, and the Jets are done for the year.
Yeah,
but they had a rest advantage on all, and the league was, I think, trying to help them as much as they could find their way into the playoffs. Why? Because the New York revenue, and the Rodgers revenue would have been dramatic if the Jets had been a playoff team.
Look, I don't think the NFL's trying out there to fix games, but they do kiss teams on foreheads, and the Jets were kissed on their forehead and weren't able to do anything with it. This is something you and I should be all over.
So look for that article. People need to look for that article this year, and they'll write it again. As soon as the schedule comes out, somebody will write who's got the rest advantage, who's got the rest disadvantage. And you should not only read the story, you should go print it out, and you should look every time you wager on an NFL game. You should have at least an idea of which team has the rest advantage, or if there's any dramatic, because how many people bet on the Niners to beat the Bengals that day and never checked the rest advantage,
right? And
then said, "Wow, man, the Bengals look so much better." Yeah, well, they essentially had 2 weeks off,
right? And look, that was the zenith of the entire Bengals season, was it not? I mean, that was
right.
That's the best that they played all year. That was their one and only real statement game of the entire year.
Burrow, I think, was lost 3 weeks later for the year, something like that. And they were leaning on Jake Browning after that.
The good times ended quickly for the Cincinnati Bengals. Let's see. What else is the NFL passing off as news? Again, this is not really news as much as it was the kind of thing you say to a local writer who bothered to come and cover a celebrity softball game. And that's exactly where this quote comes from, a celebrity softball game. But Larry, J.J. Watt, who again is retired and already starting his, he started his Hall of Fame clock. J.J. Watt's a first ballot Hall of Famer. So now he's just waiting for the call from Canton. J.J. Watt said that he would consider a return to the Texans if needed. And he and D'Amico did cross paths. D'Amico's last season as a Texans player was 2011, which was Watt's rookie year. Watt is now 35, and again, he's begun his Hall of Fame clock. He's just waiting for a mustard jacket. Says, I'm a very fortunate, lucky man. I have a beautiful wife. I have a beautiful son. I had 12 great years in the league, and I'm very thankful to have walked away healthy and playing great. I told D'Amico last year, though, don't call unless you absolutely need it. But if you ever do call, I'll be there. In other words, hey, this Texans team is actually good enough now to make me think maybe it could be one last bite at a Super Bowl that has eluded me in my career. But it really isn't even that. It's giving a quote at a charity softball game. I don't think J.J. Watt's ever playing another snap in the NFL. Do you, Larry?
No, I mean, it's just once you shut it down and sit out a year, you're done. Even if you're far younger than J.J. Watt, once you've turned off football and you're not doing the hitting and you're not doing all the training and, you're not keeping your legs in shape and you're not, training like an NFL player, you're now here's the thing, over. Like if you could prove to me, hey, he's training harder than ever and he just got 12 months of rest on his body that is available to no active player, maybe. But again, this is J.J. Watt. Like the only thing J.J. Watt needs to do to be successful the rest of his life is get out of bed. I mean, it reeks of a blown Achilles. That's what it reeks of. You're going to play and then you're going to blow out your Achilles because you're just not, it's just, I mean, if you want to do it, God bless him. If he, I think you're absolutely handicapped it right as far as he looks at this thing and now he sees CJ Stroud and he sees, last year they were, they really liked their head coach and they had won 3 games the year before. This year, they have found one of the great young quarterbacks in the game in CJ Stroud. They've surrounded him with a bevy of weapons and all kinds of talent on both sides of the ball. And he's looking at Kansas City and Baltimore and going, you know what? The Texans are absolutely on the precipice of interrupting that whole Ravens Chiefs, tango and saying, hey, we're at this party as well. And he wishes he was 3 years younger so he could potentially be part of it and pursue that Super Bowl ring. But I can't see it happening. And I looked at the Texans. The Texans have a pretty loaded roster. I'm not saying that they couldn't use J.J. Watt in his prime, but I don't know if they could use J.J. Watt, and if there were endless roster spots, sure. But, I would say J.J. Watt at this point probably is not as good as what they got.
Welcome to Wake Up Again. Before the show starts, Larry and I always do like a 40-second chit chat. What are we going over today? And I brought this up as NFL news. He's like, nah, don't even include that. And I understand. You got it wrong, Larry.
I mean, wait till you guys hear this topic and you'll see how disappointed you all are.
Here's the thing. It's not a sexy topic, but what a well-adjusted right way to step away from a career. Running back Duke Johnson retired.
Once again,
stop the president.
That doesn't move the needle.
Well, he's the University of Miami's all-time leading rusher. So again, this was a good player coming out of college, and as a professional, he was just, he was there. 8 years, 4 teams, and this is his quote: 8 years, 4 teams, 1 goal in mind: create a better life for my family. That's what he posted on Instagram. Good. I never dreamed of being an all-time leading rusher of my dream school or being somewhere on the list of all-time players to come out of South Florida. I just wanted an opportunity to play a game and to provide a better life for my family, and I was able to do just that. I want to thank each team for giving me a chance to play and representing your organization and all the fans that supported me through the highs and the lows. Sir, bravo. I mean,
way to go, Duke.
Yeah, I mean, and that's all about it, We all have a small amount of time in this league. And whether you do a lot in this league or little in this league, just being in this league puts you in a class of athlete that very few can claim to ever be a part of. It was an honor to be a part of it. I have made a significant enough amount of money to where my family and I really aren't that worried about money anymore. And that's kind of nice. And thank you, NFL. It was, a financially stabilizing thing for me and my family more than it was great memories for you, but it all works out in the end. And, little signs of dignity, decorum, and class to me stand out like sore thumbs more than ever before, Larry. So cheers to Duke Johnson for the near perfect retirement statement. Outside of that, and the reason
is that his real first name, by the way, Duke?
I don't know. I don't know if that's his given Christian-born name or not. Maybe.
Maybe.
He's
I don't know any other Dukes. Bo and Luke Duke.
Again, that's a surname though. That's not a first name.
What's that? That's their last
surname. That was their last name, the Duke boys. So that was the last name. Duke. Nothing
was better. No tease in the history of television was better than the General Lee Airborne on a Friday night.
Let me tell you,
seriously. They went to the commercial.
County.
They went to the commercial with the car in the air.
Yeah,
it's like that was television genius.
Well, and then you had what's his name? Was it Merle Haggard doing the voiceover, and he'd be like, "Them Duke boys are up to a little bit of a problem. We'll be right back."
Roscoe Pico train was hanging out behind the cooter. It was a great show. It's a great show. I don't know if I don't think they could I think the Dukes of Hazzard's probably on like PBS in Atlanta. If you get down to the South, you probably find the Dukes of Hazzard on PBS.
It's their masterpiece theater, Larry.
What the boys didn't know. That's what I always used to love. What the boys didn't know was that Roscoe was just sitting behind the tree and watching them the whole time.
You can't have a car just going around all willy-nilly with the stars and bars on top of it anymore in 2024. You just can't have a Confederate flag as the roof of a car.
Yeah, you can't go with that.
That's so a buddy of Jillian's, actually, this guy who lives out in Iowa. He's a car guy, like a serious motorhead through and through. And he always wanted to own the Dukes,
the Dodge Charger with the
Charger. Exactly. And he wanted it painted flag with the whole thing. And then he was like, look, I'm not driving around in a Confederate flag. He's like, not even in Iowa. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. So let's see what else we got. The only other thing that I guess we could pass off as news is a roast of Tom Brady.
Oh,
it's all anyone was talking about. As I was dropping the boys off this morning, both radio stations were all over the roast of Tom Brady. I didn't watch it. Larry, did I miss anything? You did watch a little.
Yeah, you did. It was pretty freaking amazing.
Was it good?
It's good. First of all, what did they pay Brady to do that? It's just like people were ripping him, start to finish, and that's what a roast is. But a couple of the highlights, at one point, I think Kevin Hart turned to Dana White and says, "You're basically just doing Michael Vick's deal, but with people." It's like, oh my God, that was unbelievable.
That's pretty good.
That was unbelievable. There was Belichick was kind of bad. Randy Moss wasn't very good. But man, Will Ferrell was there. There was this one girl early on. I forget her name. She's a comedian, but she was absolutely in fuego.
Nikki Glaser.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. She was fantastic.
Yeah, she's one of those. She's like a roast extraordinaire. She always appears on the roast. She's really good.
Oh, and then people started ripping her, and they're ripping Kevin Hart. And then one of the people who talked after Kevin Hart wanted to say in short, but then said in Kevin Hart. It's just instead of calling him short, just said his name. All kinds of people. There was a great one where the one guy who's also Mr. Roast, the ugly guy, I forget who talked early. Anyway, he went to
Jeffrey Ross, the Roastmaster General.
Yeah, he went and ripped Kraft, and he said, Tom Brady said to Robert Kraft, I'm the best, decision this franchise ever made. He said it his rookie year, and Robert Kraft looked back at him and said, "You want a massage?" And he looks over at Kraft, and Brady gets up and he's like, "Hey man, don't bring that shit up again." It was classic.
Yeah, I'd be like, sorry, Tom. I mean, how many Asian women sprained their wrist jerking this guy off tonight in Las Vegas? Is that where they did it? You know, I mean,
it's just unbelievable.
All these people in on Robert Kraft.
All these people were like, Tom, it must suck that your wife left you for somebody who could kick your ass. It's like, it was unbelievable.
Who did she leave him for?
Oh, some jujitsu, fighter or something.
Brazilian
like that.
Jiu-jitsu. She gone back to Brazil.
Yeah, and he's like, some people made several references. I bet you, Tom wishes he didn't pay for those jujitsu lessons or something like that. And then some people. Oh, it was amazing. I mean, Kevin Hart they got racial. They got this. They got that. It was like, just amazing. Just an amazing, roast. And it was just, it was electric. I mean, I turned it off after 2 hours because it was like, it was getting pretty raunch, and Belichick sucked so bad. I was like, he's so bad. But Belichick got ripped, and, Gronk, a million rips on how Gronk is stupid. And all kinds of rips on Julian Edelman for
were there Aaron Hernandez jokes? I would have loaded up on
Aaron Hernandez jokes. Yeah, I mean, it was everything that was out of bounds was inbounds.
Well, that's what a roast is supposed to be. And I'll just tell you, Larry, when Jason Barrett was the program director of 95.7 The Game, the guy who brought me and hired me into Afternoon Drive. And I like Jason an awful lot. We worked together very, very well. But when he decided to leave the station, he put on a roast for himself that we did at Cobb's. And everyone got up there and tried to do a roast and, not be too offensive, try to keep their jobs. Then Uncle Damon had only one request in the evening. I go last. And I went up there and I showed that radio station what a roast really looks like. I eviscerated the dais. Destroyed Barrett. And, Bill Romanowski was up there. I destroyed Bill Romanowski.
Bill Romanowski with major tax problems right now.
Yeah. And I basically was joking about how that would happen, asked him if him and his wife were selling steroids in the alley after the show. I mean, I got a look from Bill Romanowski like, "Oh, how dare you?"
That's not a guy you want to piss off.
No, I just said, Bill,
he's just unwired enough to go after you.
I just said, Bill, it's a roast. Shut the fuck up and sit down.
It's a roast. Yeah.
It's a roast, you motherfuckers. I kept on saying, like people would be like, ooh. And I'd be like, it's a roast. Do you know what you were coming to? So I went off. I was great. I'm not going to lie. I would say that if that tape ever got out, I would be unemployable, but apparently radio deems me unemployable anyway. So who cares? Might as well
it's like, things that you say, if you say it on Monday, you're fired. If you say it in a roast, you're awesome.
So that was
you're
fun.
The best.
That was fun.
Yeah, no, it was good. It was good. It was at the Forum, I mean, it was like, people were just like, yeah, this is where Dr. Jerry Buss, fucked a bunch of people, it was like,
totally.
This, it was unbelievable,
Yeah. You no mercy during a roast.
Somebody's like, Magic Johnson got AIDS right here in this building. And it was like, it was really, I mean, it was just an unbelievable roast. But yeah, it was good. It was good. But to me, I would say a good roast would be about 90 minutes to 2 hours. When you get to that third hour, it's like, all right. And it was raunchy to the point, and it was getting kind of repetitive. Gronk's an idiot, and Belichick's a control freak, and Tom's wife left him, and he's it's like somebody did say at one point, whoever thought that a guy with 7 Super Bowl rings could have a midlife crisis? It's like that. And Brady was laughing.
So it was
And
on
then
Netflix? Is
Gronk
that
was
it?
like, Gronk at one point was like, Tom, your sisters are here. It was like, like, I want to hit on your sister. I mean, it was just, and a couple times Brady was like, hey, you could see he's like, it was like, so that crosses the line. But Kevin Hart was good. And every now and then he just move in, just, fuck you, Tom Brady. Just out of nowhere. It's like, I just got to mix in a few, fuck you, Tom. But yeah,
there you go. They're, well, they sell DraftKings or whatever they do together. So there you go.
People are ripping Kevin Hart. Like, Kevin Hart, it's as good as a Kevin Hart movie, because like Kevin Hart's had all these terrible movies that he's, in. So yeah, it was good. It was definitely good, but I didn't get to. I will go back on Netflix maybe tonight or tomorrow and watch the last hour, but it's hard to watch 3 hours of that straight, unless you're just, the biggest Pats fan of all time, or, you know what I mean? If you really care that much about Brady. But if you're just like passing by, it's good, and it gets you, and it keeps you and holds you for about, I would say, a good hour and 15. And then it's like, starts to be like, okay.
All right, so there it is. I might check it out a little bit later on if I got a little time to kill at the end of the night. Get the kids down. Wife goes to bed at 8:45, and house shuts down early. Maybe I will check it out. Let's see. Anything else from the NFL, Larry? I got a couple of other things to squeeze in here at the end. I want to invite everybody to my 11 o'clock show. By the way, today, The Athletic's Mike Sando is going to be joining me, and we're going to be breaking down, are the Niners indeed still the best in the West, and how does the NFC West stack up after 4 draft classes change these teams from the inside out? And we're going to be having a great conversation with Mike Sando, who is one of the best, who we bumped into on Radio Row during the Super Bowl.
Yes, that's right. He's in the same video that
Wayne Newton video.
Wayne Newton made an appearance in. That was an epic video, man. That really was. That was almost like a dream sequence, because you had all these people that didn't know each other, and the only connection is us, right? And we're sitting there. It was JT the Brick, and then there's Sando, and then you shook hands with Wayne Newton, who just looks like he is just, he makes Joan Rivers look like she has, never had any work done.
He looks like a wax figure that has come to life.
I seriously, it was like a mechanical bull or something, it's like ridiculous. That all good stuff there. At noon today on the Krueger show, I've got the great Eric Crocker will be in the house, the former Jets defensive back, and we'll talk a little bit about the Niners offseason. So Croc and Krug today at noon.
I like Eric.
Yeah, good dude. And then my Monday hit with Grant Cohn will be on Tuesday this week. So there'll be no Grant Cohn hit. And then this afternoon, I'm going to watch a little Mason Black. Mason Black making his Giants debut as the Giants try to avoid getting swept in that rare, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday series in Philly, as the Giants are getting crushed on the road trip here.
Well, so that's exactly where I was going. We don't need
before we get to the Giants.
Okay.
Before we get to the Giants, a couple things on football. I don't know if we did we hit this on Friday. The Matt Barrows sit down with Scott McCloughan.
We did talk about it on Friday. Yeah.
Okay. So did we bring up the fact that Scott McCloughan thinks that Isaac Guerrendo isn't going to make the final 53?
We did talk about that on Friday. Yes, we did.
Okay. So anyway, that I thought was worth mentioning. Also, I have a video coming out later today, and I went through every team's draft and undrafted guys, and I've got winners and losers, a video coming out, winners and losers from the draft. I'll just give you the tease in that the 3 loser teams, I didn't have the Niners as a winner or a loser. They're kind of in between. But I have the Bears, the Cowboys, and the Raiders as the biggest losers from the draft.
Well, and your Bears premise, because everyone else is scoring the Bears a big win, but your entire Bears premise is you don't believe in Caleb Williams at all.
I don't believe in Caleb Williams. I'm not a big Adunze fan, and I just think, but the Bears did get a quarterback after the draft named Austin Reed. And just remember that name, man, because this guy is a hell of a quarterback. And wait until you see the Bears may have stumbled into the Trey Lance, Brock Purdy situation here, where they took Niners took Trey Lance, but then they got Brock Purdy. The Bears took Caleb Williams, but they have this guy Badgent, and they also have now Austin Reed from Western Kentucky. And all I'll say for football fans is do not be shocked if Austin Reed becomes a really good quarterback for the Bears. But they got him as an undrafted guy. But yeah, Bears I didn't like, Dallas I really didn't like, and the Raiders I really didn't like. And then I have like 15 teams that I thought were the big winners. There was a lot of winners in the draft this year.
I'm guessing you got Philadelphia on top of your winners. I'm guessing you got Pittsburgh on top of your winners.
Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, both of the New York teams, Houston, the Chargers, the Rams, the Seahawks, the Bills. Yeah, there's a Miami. Miami had a very, very good draft. So I'll put that out there later today. You can check it out on the Krueger show. A little video on the winners and losers.
I'll be watching a little bit later on today. The Krueger show brought to you by Pig and a Pickle.
Pig and a Pickle.
Get yourself to Ike's too. My good friend Ike's got a delicious sandwich waiting for you. And there you go. Taking care of the sponsors who love us very, very much. Happy 93rd birthday to Willie Mays, the baseball's oldest living Hall of Famer. That is who Willie is now. And I tell you, he's still got an awful lot of his faculties for being a 93-year-old man. Willie Mays, 93. It's one of the true regrets that I haven't seen more of his playing days. Like, I wish we had more in his prime footage of Willie Mays, other than the same, 5, 6, 7 highlights that are the only things that have survived in the Willie Mays highlight reel. If you want to see an older man get emotional, ask an older man about Willie Mays and what they meant to their childhood. It's the closest you'll see to old men get a twinkle in their eye and start crying. Like, there's so much romance attached to Willie Mays by that generation. And that generation was a harsh critic, so he was a good baseball player, Larry. I'm comfortable in saying that.
Yeah. Happy 93rd Willie for sure. And, growing up in San Francisco, my dad is a native San Franciscan. And, I don't think people realize that when the Giants came west in after the 57 season, that Giants fans were tough on Willie because they loved Joe DiMaggio. DiMaggio had played his AAA ball here. He grew up in North Beach. He was a San Franciscan. He was an established superstar in New York. And, the Giants fans, really held Willie to a very high standard, and they loved Cepeda and they loved McCovey. Those guys were rookies at that point, and they were viewed as San Francisco's own because they came up out here on the West Coast, where Willie came up in 51 in New York and was kind of viewed as New York's, and they wanted him to they thought he was just going to hit a home run every at bat, and he was going to make an amazing catch. Eventually, of course, he won them all over. There he is. I'll never forget the interview that I did with Willie, and I wish I had it. It was the opening of at the time Pac Bell Park, and we sat in the dugout and talked, and it was like me and like 3 other people interviewing Willie. And Willie was always a difficult interview because he had strong opinions and would go off in a bunch of different directions talking about different things. But I remember as a kid, just my dad speaking in such glowing terms of Willie Mays. And then maybe the best part about Giant rain delays is that NBC Sports Bay Area will play the retrospective on Willie, and his dad kitty cat, was a guy who worked at a steel mill and he just cleaned up around the steel mill. And he was the guy that kind of introduced the game to Willie. And he was really tough on Willie. He made him play catcher. He made him play first. He made him play second. And he had to master every position on the field. And baseball was a huge, huge part of Willie's life, and at all points, to the point where he was playing for, a professional team when he was 15, 16 years old. And he played for, his manager was this guy, Piper. And supposedly Willie would say Piper wouldn't yell at him. He would just kind of tell him how to do certain things. And he learned a ton of baseball playing. Now you see kids, hey, we'll play up. You're a freshman, you're on the varsity. Well, he was basically the same kind of thing. He was a 15-year-old, 16-year-old playing with the Birmingham Black Barons, I believe. And he was, all the people, and Jim Davenport is quoted in the retrospective as saying that, all the people who followed the Negro Leagues in Birmingham all knew that Willie was a prodigy. That they were talking about him when he was 15, 16 years old, when he was playing with pros, because they knew that he had this amazing potential. And really think about the integration of baseball. And,
aren't the Giants playing a game at that Birmingham Barons Stadium later this year? Aren't they playing a throwback game to pay tribute to where Willie Mays' career got its start? I
should. I don't know if they are, but they should. But it was, there were just several parts of that documentary that, it's a 1-hour documentary retrospective on Willie's career. But Willie came along at a time where, guys like Jackie Robinson, put their foot in the door and opened the door, and Willie and Hank Aaron and Frank Robinson and that whole next generation of ball players came through. And it was all because of what Jackie did that enabled them. And I'll say this, Willie is an amazing guy, considering, he was subjected to Hagerstown, Maryland, and all kinds of racial taunts, and he never let it bother him or never let it outwardly affect him. Never let it, turn his heart cold. And he just, it's an amazing thing when you experience that kind of hatred, and yet it doesn't impact you.
Right. I always thought that he was a little guarded, though, and you should be. You're Willie Mays. Everyone wants something from you. And so you have to be guarded and measure your words twice before you cut and all that stuff. One of the coolest days I ever had around the San Francisco Giants was in Scottsdale, where it was just in between spring training games or some split squad, whatever. So half the clubhouse wasn't even in the clubhouse. And there I was sitting and eating a turkey sandwich with Marty Lurie and Willie Mays at a table. I had to pinch myself. I was like,
Willie had
my grandfather could see me having lunch with Willie Mays. Oh my God.
Willie had a profound impact too on Kevin Mitchell before that 89 season. The Giants invited Willie to spring training. He worked extensively with Mitchell, who had been a third baseman for the most part on playing the outfield. And Mitchell played a very good outfield that year. He also, just got Kevin to really focus on his hitting. Kevin he was the MVP of the National League. He had 47 home runs, drove in 125. It was one of the most awesome individual seasons I think I've ever seen. Everything that came off of Mitchell's
catch in the outfield in the history of baseball.
Yeah, but Mitchell that year hit the ball. Just everything he hit was a rocket. The other thing I thought was interesting about that retrospective, that Ray Ratto had the best line, and it's put in at the very end of the documentary.
Line. It's the walk-off.
It absolutely is. It's the walk-off line. And Ray is such a, he's an older guy. He is a good wordsmith. He's a good perspective guy. But in the documentary, it finishes up with Ray Ratto saying that Willie Mays was the signature player of baseball's most talented era. And that, I think, is so well encapsulates the true greatness of Willie Mays. I mean, he played in an era just in New York City alone where there was Mickey Mantle and Duke Snider and Willie all in one city.
Everybody's a Hall of Famer. The whole city's a Hall of Famer, and he stood out among all of them.
He just was a little bit better at everything. A little bit better hitter, a little bit better fielder, a little bit better base runner, a little bit better thrower. He was the signature player in baseball's most talented era. And I think that was so well said. And because, you can talk about Ruth all you want, but the sport wasn't integrated. Ruth may have been the best ever, but maybe it was Josh Gibson. Maybe it was Satchel Paige. Maybe it was, Oscar Charleston. I mean, maybe it was one of those guys, but we'll never know because he didn't play against those guys. But Willie did play at a point in history where the sport was integrated, and you had this amazing group of talented players that were pre-47 were not allowed, and in the 50s they were allowed. So Willie did play in this amazing era. But the other thing I thought was really interesting is that now you go to watch a Giants game, if a left fielder, if they go a double switch and they pull out the left fielder, well, they don't do the double switch anymore because of there's no pitchers that hit. But right. Usually, if they take one left fielder out and another left fielder goes out there, I saw this last year at a game. I was at a Giants game. The new left fielder ran from the Giants dugout out to left field and then ran all the way back to the dugout to get the card that was in the back pocket of the left fielder that he replaced that told him where to play every hitter. Well, Willie was that card.
Right.
Willie, I mean, they have images of Willie in center, pointing over to McCovey. Hey, move to because McCovey played a little outfield. You move to the left. You move to the right. Just amazing. He positioned all the outfielders, and he did it all just based on his brain. And so he was. John Miller says it best. Willie was such an awesome physical talent that he doesn't get credit for being one of the smartest baseball players the game has ever seen. He was like a coach in the field. Herman Franks was his manager. He's quoted as saying, I let Willie play center field the way he saw fit because he knew players and he knew, they didn't have tendencies. They didn't have research and development. They didn't have analytics. They didn't have any of that stuff.
Right.
It was all just Willie Mays and in his head.
Grid with every quadrant, accounted for, and balls are hit into this quadrant with this frequency. So you got to stand there. The game was much simpler. It was a much simpler game. It was the other one is the quote from Felipe Alou, who says, when Willie Mays went between the lines, it was do or die. And he played the game incredibly hard. And I remember my dad used to tell me as a kid that Willie would play so amazing, play every day. Even the All-Star game, he'd play all 9 innings, wanted to play the All-Star game, played in like 24 All-Star games. There was a couple of years there, like 4 or 5 years, they played 2 All-Star games. But he had an incredible record in the All-Star game, played the All-Star games, but he would literally break down and need to be hospitalized. I mean, literally like exhaustion. It happened like 3 or 4 times in his career where he's just playing every day and all of a sudden he just breaks down, exhaustion, needs to be hospitalized. So the guy played incredibly hard and he always went first to third and he always went second to home. And to me, he talks about that 62 series against the Yankees where Matty Alou hits a ball into the right field corner and Roger Maris goes down into that right field corner. This is before Candlestick was enclosed. And the field had, the rain had come so strong that the ball died and did not ricochet around in that corner. And Roger Maris got to the ball, scooped it up on the run, hit Bobby Richardson with just a perfect relay throw, who then threw a one-hopper to Elston Howard, and the runner had to stay at third. That brought up McCovey, who hit a hard line drive to Richardson for the final out. And Willie said, hey, I was wishing, because Willie had hit the ball in the corner, he said, I was wishing that I could have been the base runner and not the hitter, because
He said, I would have scored. I would have, he would have gone home and tried to mix it up with Elston Howard at home plate. There would have been a big collision, but 62 series. I mean, an amazing thing, not to mention the 51 series, which was Mays' first year, Giants Yankees. That's DiMaggio and Mays on the same diamond, the intersection of their two Hall of Fame careers. Pretty amazing stuff. Willie, we could go on and on and on and on and on talking about Willie Mays. All I'll say is my dad used to say, it's funny too, because Joey Amalfitano was quoted in this documentary. He's talking about Willie and he's talking about different attributes. And he's like, Willie was just the best. Willie was the best.
Right.
And my dad used to say that all the time. He'd be like, you know what? He was just the best. He was just the very, very best. And that's an amazing thing, considering there was Stan Musial, there was Hank Aaron, there was some awesome Roberto Clemente, and some incredible players that played in his era, but he was considered the best.
Happy 93rd
Willie
Mays. Meanwhile, Giants offense, Larry, is why they're 1-5 so far on this 10-game road trip. And I was looking at some numbers. 16th in batting average around Major League Baseball right now. The team is hitting 238. They're 21st in on-base percentage at 305. They're 19th in on-base plus slugging at 677. But the reason why they are just fuckered, really, the reason why is because the Dodgers are number one in baseball in all three of those same categories. They're number one in the National League with 47 home runs. And guess who's the third team in baseball in terms of home runs right now? It's the Arizona Diamondbacks. The Oakland A's, by the way, have hit the second most home runs in all baseball. And good,
they scored 20 runs in a game the other day.
I know. And
the
then
A's, they got Mason Black, but I mean, the A's are a good baseball organization with a terrible business organization, and they just, they keep putting out players. They keep, finding ways. I mean, the Giants are, to me, what really stands out about the Giants is how bad all their acquisitions are playing. I mean, outside of Jordan Hicks, who looks good, Jung Hoo's 248 or something like that. I mean, there were people like 10 days ago, 3 weeks ago, whatever, saying, Krug, I can't listen to you because you said that you ripped Jung Hoo Lee. All I said was he's not worth $19 million. Right.
We don't need to go over this again. You're we got it. We've done this segment like 6 times.
No, but we've done it as the guy's hitting 289 and doing great. He's a great defensive player, but he's hitting 249.
Look, Jung Hoo Lee's the least of the Giants' problems.
But they paid him $19 million. Right.
Still,
they also paid Chapman a shit ton of money. What's he hitting? Terrible.
He's like 208 or something. Like, he's got no bat speed anymore.
Soler, they brought him in. Well, how's he doing? Bad. I was hoping for Soler, so I'm not saying that I wasn't wishing for Soler. I was, but I mean, literally every single acquisition they've made is in the toilet, except for Jordan Hicks for the most part.
And look, it's still
can't hit it all.
Maybe they figure it out, but they desperately need to start figuring it out and scoring some runs. And here's why the Giants are just in a lot of trouble. No matter what they do, no matter who starts playing better, the Giants are in an awful lot of trouble. These are Major League Baseball's RBI leaders. The Dodgers and Padres are 1 and 2 in all of Major League Baseball. The Diamondbacks are 4th in RBIs in all of Major League Baseball, and the Giants are 23rd. They are the caboose in terms of run production in their own division. And that's just it's unsurvivable, basically.
Well, they can't score. They've gone like 15 games in a row where they haven't scored 4 runs. They're scored 3 runs or less.
Larry, they've scored more than 4 runs only 6 times since April Fool's Day.
Yeah. Well, and not only that, it's like it becomes this gigantic excuse fest. I tuned into Flem and Hunter on Saturday, and granted, it was raining and they fell behind early, but these guys were just making every excuse. Oh my God, it's, this and the rain and the cold, and this is a nightmare. It's one game, guy. Teams get ripped all the time. You run into, don't talk about weather. I mean, come on, seriously, that's loser talk. complaining about weather, using weather as excuses. Not only that, it's a non-distinct club. I mean, it's like Wade's doing well. Tyro's starting to heat up. He hit one out yesterday. But I mean, you got Nick Ahmed on the left side. He's just total stopgap, can't hit it all. You're leading off Austin Slater the other day. What are you doing? He's hitting 103. Yaz is heated up a little bit, but I mean, he's a retread nothing. I mean, they got nothing.
Right.
They got the weakest outfield in the entire league. They can't hit it all.
Meanwhile,
and their pitching is not bad. The guy today, Mason Black, makes his major league debut. And you know what? Mason Black's stuff is nasty. And they've got, I don't know if you saw Carson Wisenhunt the other day, struck out like 12 or 14, like 8 of them on the changeup. His changeup is totally dirty.
Yeah, no.
So I mean, they have pitching.
It's
they just have no hitting.
Problem. It's the offense that's the problem.
And the defense is starting to be bad now. I mean, now they're starting to play bad defense.
Well, you know what's really damning? Like last year, the offense was a problem, right? In 2003, they ended the year averaging 14.16 runs per game. So far in 2024, they're averaging
not 14.
No, 4.16 runs per game. Yeah. What did I say?
You said 14.
Oh, I'm sorry. In 2023, you look at it this way: you average 14 runs a game, you're going to win a lot of ball games.
Yeah, you're averaging 14 runs a game.
In 2023, excuse me, they averaged 4.16 runs per game. They are at 3.74 runs per game. So they're worse right now than they were last year in terms of scoring runs. And, on the
catching situation, I mean, they kissed off Joey Bart for Tom Murphy. Why? Because because Sabes and Evans drafted Joey Bart, and now you go after Tom Murphy. Tom Murphy is not near. I mean, Tom Murphy is just a Joey Bart, but years later, and now he's hurt. He's got a knee problem. He's probably done for a while. He's not near the player. I mean, they could have saved a few bucks and just gone with Joey Bart. Instead, no, got to get him out of there. Can't have Joey Bart as the backup. We got to have Tom Murphy. I mean, it's like, and there were people that were literally talking like Tom Murphy was a great freaking acquisition. It's like, come on, this guy sucks. And you had a guy that also basically was the same as Tom Murphy, but with a better defensive pedigree, better arm, better catch and throw skills. And you just opted to kick him out and give him away to the Pirates for nothing. I'm not saying that Joey Bart's the solution, but I mean, you didn't have to make a move there, but you did. And then the Padres over the weekend trade for Luis Arias, who's a 2-time batting champion.
It's a rise.
Yeah, I mean, but I mean, why wouldn't the Giants go after that player? I mean, you could have easily moved Tyro to shortstop, play that guy at second base, and now you've got I did a video on this a week ago. I'm like, the Giants are 2 hitters away: Luis Arias and Pete Alonso, and just go get these guys and improve your offense. No, the other thing that I thought was kind of interesting is that Dog goes on NBC Sports Bay Area on Thursday, rips the hell out of Farhan, says he would fire him if he owned the team. They didn't just put that on their Giants flagship, post-game show. They then put it out on all their social media things. And it makes me wonder if, the Giants are so guarded and so worried about anybody ripping them that they're going to celebrate Dog saying fire the general manager. It makes you wonder if somebody internally signed off on that, because I mean, nothing goes on KMBR or NBC Sports Bay Area without the Giants basically approval.
I mean, that's the way it used to be. Now I just feel that there are so many underqualified, underpaid 26-year-olds who don't know shit from Shinola making these decisions that, of course they put it up. They needed a social media post. They have Mad Dog.
Yes, but I mean, so doesn't that make you wonder if there's some internal person there who's just, saying we're done with Farhan? Why would you put out on your own flagship, state radio basically and state television. Why would you put out, somebody credible saying that your leader should be fired, and you're doing this like first week in May? I mean, what's Farhan's deal? He had 1 year left, and then when Melvin came in, did Melvin get 3 years or 2 years? And he's aligned with Melvin, isn't he?
I think he's got 3, and then Farhan has a deal that is question mark, right? No one really knows.
I thought Farhan was extended. Ned Coletti was asking me about this. Was Farhan extended? I thought Farhan was extended to match up with Melvin. So I think Farhan had this year, and Melvin, this was going to be Farhan's lame duck year. Melvin, I think, got 3 years, and I think Farhan got 2 extra years to be in lockstep with Melvin. But I'll say this. I mean, the Giants farm system is not, Mason Black is obviously produced, coming in today, Whisenhunt. They've produced some offense, some pitching, but no real offensive players of note. So this like bonanza of minor leaguers isn't necessarily there. The creative trades aren't there. And as Dog said, hey man, if you're a radio guy and you have, 5 years and you have 1 good year, you're not going to get an extension. So he's had 1 good year with Sabian's talent in 2021, which I thought was kind of a little bit of an aberration. You had Buster Posey and all these things going on. Giants had 1 million pinch hit home runs that year. It felt very lucky. And in hindsight, it probably was really lucky because they've been terrible since. So, 2022, 2023, this is year 6 for Farhan.
By the way,
how many years should Farhan get from this point in your mind, Damon? Should he get the rest of this year? Should he get the next 2 years after this? Should he get, literally he's got, I believe he's under contract through 2026.
He is, Larry. The Giants signed Bob Melvin to a 3-year contract through 2026, and then additionally extended Farhan through 2026 as well. I would.
What would you do if you own the team?
I would have gotten rid of him a year ago. That's what I would have done. If I owned the team, we would already be beyond the Farhan years, basically because the team has no identity other than it lacks an identity. That's the defining feature of the Giants, is no truly defining feature.
They have no Hall of Fame players.
And to me, the damnation is the farm system that produces dick other than like 1 or 2 good pitchers. Yeah. They are just the most blind corner infielder, corner outfielder franchise in the game. It's amazing.
Yeah. And not only that, the people who rank farm systems, not, there's, who knows, Keith Law does it, who's pretty sharp. JJ Cooper, Baseball America, those guys do it. They're pretty sharp. The entities that MLB Pipeline ranks them, the entities that rank farm systems rank the Giants farm system the lowest in the National League West, behind the Dodgers, Diamondbacks, Padres, Rockies. They're last. So, it's
right. You can't be trailing all 3 of those teams in player development and in free agent acquisitions. And the Giants are trailing all 3 of those teams in both categories.
Dodgers, Diamondbacks, Padres, 4 teams. They're trailing all 4. They're the 5th. They're the 5th rated team in a 5-team division, according to 3 different sources that all rank minor league.
Right. The Rockies
minor league
even trying. Right.
Yeah. But the Padres are competing for top international talent. The Dodgers are just doing absolutely, they're lapping the Giants. The Diamondbacks were just in the World Series. They've got all kinds of young players coming. Corbin Carroll. And then the Rockies have Zach Veen and all these other young guys coming up through their system, even though they seem like they're a tire fire. But yeah, the Giants have the lowest rated minor leagues. So it's like, if you haven't jump-started the minor leagues and you've been here for 6 years and you really haven't, you have 1 major league successful season to show for it, and attendance is plummeting. And then the Giants ownership group in past years, you could kind of blame them as well. But this year they went out and spent money. I mean, he wanted Blake Snell. They signed Blake Snell. Blake Snell's been an absolute disaster. What a disaster signing. So the Giants spent, outside of the Dodgers, the Giants spent, I think they spent like $300 million in collective commitments this offseason. And that ownership group is, I'm sure, looking for some results. And the Giants right now,
I was ready to fire Larry. I was ready to fire Farhan on the day of the AJ Pollock trade. That's when I was like, what the fuck are you even doing or looking at? What are you doing? Like, AJ Pollock was stunned.
He got no hits.
We traded for him.
He never got a hit.
Never made it to first base, Larry. Never even drew a walk. He never reached first base.
And people would be saying like, oh, come on, that was a minor deal. The problem with Farhan, his number one problem, is that he talks a big game. There is no free agent that we won't consider. There's no this and that. And it's like, it's deemed like be out of his control that the Giants can't get free agents. And I think that his job is to sell the franchise and to land top tier guys. Instead, every cycle he gets. I mean, there was literally an article written that I had in on my desk here that I was throwing papers out the other day. I had an article from the beginning of the off season where there were people that were suggesting that the Giants may get both Shohei Ohtani and Cody Bellinger. And it's like, what? They didn't get either. So it's just it's like at the trade, there's no stone that will go unturned. We're looking at everything and AJ Pollock is the deal that you make.
Right.
I mean,
and then you got,
a bad salesperson.
And then you get Susan getting her article out there, or Andrew Baggerly saying the Giants could not have done a better job with Shohei.
Yeah.
Just could not have done a better job. It would have been impossible to have done more to sign the guy. But unfortunately he just chose another, come on.
Seriously, talk about your credibility killer. There's nothing the Giants could have done that would have been better. It's like, what? Just go away. Take your free hot dog and go away.
Other than actually signing him, they could not have done a better job.
They could not have done a better job. You know what? This blankety blank radio show that finished last in ratings, they could not have done a better job other than getting good ratings.
Nobody took Shohei Ohtani to dinner like the San Francisco Giants. Nobody. The Dodgers, to this day, are still envious of the dinner in which he didn't sign the contract with the team.
I guarantee you that Ned Colletti could do a much, much better job than Farhan Zaidi.
Well, it's getting to the point, Larry.
He would not get led around by the nose.
Right.
Boris would not have played him for $119 million for Jung-Hoo. Wouldn't have happened.
How about this? In 5 years, I guarantee you I couldn't do much worse, right? I won't say that I'm smarter or better, but there's no doubt in my mind that I could field a painfully average Major League Baseball team for a half a decade. I could absolutely do that. I could have a painfully average baseball team.
The Giants are rich. They're one of the richest teams in all of baseball. They own their own ballpark. They own a lot of the land around the ballpark. The Giants are financially positioned better than like 99.9% of all teams in Major League Baseball. And with that advantage, and with an iconic brand of the San Francisco Giants, fresh off a decade that saw them win 3 World Series titles, the fact that you can't get anybody really to sign here. Everybody who signs wants an out after 1 year or 2 years, and you give it to them. Somebody said to me, Jung-Hoo, that it's not a 6-year deal. He's got an out after year 2 or something. Like, dude, no, the Giants are committed to him for 6. He has the ability to say, I'll walk away from $19 million after whatever, 2, 3, 4, whatever it is. But let's make no mistakes. The Giants' commitment is for the 6. The player has an option to walk. That's the deals they have to sign. They can't get guys to sign there. Now, is it part of it out of his hands? Sure. Is the the fall of San Francisco as a, in the image department has hurt badly. That has nothing to do with Farhan, and some of it's largely contrived. So, and baseball players' wives are the ones who are making these decisions, and they're a notoriously conservative group of people. This is a left-leaning area for sure. But I mean, it's been a left-leaning area forever, and the wives of baseball players have been conservative forever. So, you know what? Nothing should have changed that dramatically that would prevent the Giants from competing. And it all kind of plays to me like weak excuse making. Like, I'm a crappy executive and can't get the job done. So let's blame the conditions of San Francisco. Let's blame the mayor. Let's blame
Josh Hamilton is a recovering addict and standing in right field. He smelt marijuana, and that was the day he decided he would never be a San Francisco Giant.
Yeah.
Remember that bit? Remember that?
Yeah,
come on.
I mean, literally, you could walk outside of Coors Field and buy weed legally like 30 feet away, but nobody's saying they won't go to Denver. So what are we really talking about? It's all excuse making, and and at this point, I don't care about the labor pain. Show me the baby. I don't care. I mean, the Giants under Farhan Zaidi have become a second-class citizen. The irony is that they actually beat the Dodgers in 2021 and won one more game and won an amazing division race. But in reality, under Farhan, even though he's got that head-to-head win against the Dodgers, they've fallen so far behind LA that
it's like they're playing different sports.
Yeah, I mean, and then and what I can't stand are just the blatant lies. Like, the Giants yes crew all basically tried to confirm that the Giants offered Shohei Ohtani the exact same $700 million deal with all that deferred money. Isn't that interesting? Because the Dodgers then took that deferred money and spent the extra money on Yamamoto. Well, the Giants were supposedly going to give Shohei $700 million, all of it deferred. But so then they were going to go get who? I mean, it's like, I just don't believe it. I just don't believe it at all that they were going to make that kind of an offer.
How about you take the word deferred out of it and get the player? When if who might be more interested in $700 million, the $700 million that's deferred or the $700 million that you're guaranteed right now? Like,
sure, but do you even believe? See, I don't even believe the notion that the Giants offered the same amount of money. It's just like, we don't want to look bad. It's like
the only thing that
we don't care if we lose the bidding for Ohtani. We just don't want to look bad.
The only thing I believe is that they did their level best, because that's what
they did their best. There's nothing that we could have done more on this live stream. I mean,
we did our best.
We did
our level best to make.
We need someone to come out and say that nobody has done a live stream as good as this. There's nothing more we could have done to make this live stream any better.
Larry, I didn't want that Duke Johnson story to be part of the NFL news, but I was just doing my level best to keep it in the headlines and, stay inside the chalk. So what do we got in terms of super chats? What do we got today? How are your eyes doing? How are your peepers?
Oh, they're still a little off, so you're going to have to read for me. Here we go.
All right, here we go. This is Greg Argisi saying, Larry, respect you. Stand nose to chest with players.
I appreciate
Larry goes into the locker room. Larry goes into the locker room. There we go.
And you know what? I think everybody should, because I think everybody would have a better appreciation for these guys. It doesn't make you cover them when they're not doing well. I mean, I talked face to face to Chase Young 3 times after he was traded here, and yet I still called out his Cadillacing in the NFC Championship game. But you do have I think you have a little bit of more humanity about your commentary when it's a person and not just a name
and a number and a
name and a number that's you're totally disconnected from. If you know you're going to face the guy up the next day in the locker room, you're probably going to choose your words a little bit more carefully. That's all.
Love you guys. Best content in the world. It's coming from a Jersey dude. Thank you very much, Greg. Appreciate it.
Appreciate you, Greg.
From Kyle says, should we be concerned about what Persall's struggles against good corners in college? Also, Raiders' first 2 draft picks were great.
Well, they got Brock Bowers. That was a nice pick for sure.
Yeah.
As far as the Raiders' second pick, I don't know about the Raiders' second. The Raiders' second pick was, Jackson Powers Johnson. You're right. They started good, but then they went Delmar Glaze to Camryn Richardson, who's size speed freak only. Tommy Eichenberg from Ohio State. I think that's a bad pick. Trey Taylor, safety from Air Force. I mean, Air Force doesn't have a history of producing good players. They did get Carter Bradley undrafted. The first pick and the second pick, I think, fell in their lap. The rest of their picks, I think they swung and missed at least 5 times after that. So there you go.
Only time will tell. But look,
only time will tell.
Look, Ricky Pearsall has got to prove that he can get that level of separation from elite corners playing man-to-man, yet he also has a reputation that he was always open. So hopefully Kyle figures out a way to run him open. And, I really want to see how many of the 49ers drafted rookies even show up to help out in 2024. It feels like they got a lot of guys who might not even hit the field this year, which is sort of the opposite of the way I thought that they were going to go about their draft. But we'll see. Even though the guy might not be a big 1 contributor, maybe he'll be a big year 2 or 3 contributor, or maybe Ricky Pearsall is the biggest surprise the NFL will serve up this year. And he is highly involved and is the first young receiver under Kyle Shanahan to receive a lion's share of responsibility. Well, only time will tell.
I'll say this about Ricky Pearsall, and I've studied him a lot in the last week. To me, it's all about toughness. It's all about toughness. How tough is he? I saw him on the ground an awful lot. Can he beat the jam at the line of scrimmage? Can he catch those passes in the middle of the field, take a big hit, and, come back for more? How tough is Ricky Pearsall? Think about the people that they're saying that, they're hoping that he's like. They hope he's like Cooper Kupp. What's Cooper Kupp's defining trait? Toughness and quickness. They say, they hope he's like a Julian Edelman with a little bit more size and speed. Well, what is Julian Edelman? Super, super tough. If you're going to be a slot receiver in the middle of the field, taking hits, you got to get off the line of scrimmage, and you got to keep your feet, and you got to be tough. And to me, that's really it. If you know that Ricky Pearsall is incredibly tough, then I think that's an amazing pick. But if Ricky Pearsall is, just not the toughest guy and doesn't like that much contact and is going to shy away from the big hits, then no. Then you've drafted a 3rd, 4th, or 5th wide receiver, and you used your first-round pick to do it. So to me, that's really it right there. It comes down to a referendum, and for me, on the guy's toughness. If he's super tough, awesome pick, and he may be a prolific combination with Purdy. If he's not tough, he's going to be a specialist, and there's a chance that Jacob Cowing. I actually think Jacob Cowing is going to be better. I'll say this right now. I think Jacob Cowing is going to be better than Pearsall, and I think that Cody Schrader is going to be better than Garendo. So we'll see. We'll see what happens when we get to camp.
Well, that's all the time we have. It's about being tough. It's about being a good show. When there's not a lot of headlines to work with, you still got to make something out of it. And that's what Damon and Larry did today. They really, they stretched on the Duke Johnson story. I think we all know that, but they were very nice. They paid tribute to Willie Mays, which is the correct thing to do as well. So I'm glad that they got that element of the show in there. You got a Derby winner too. I always like a good gambling win, and I certainly don't want to pay the losses when I do this. So Larry, am I going to have to pay this bookie that I'm asking you about?
My guy collects, Ralph, but my guy pays. Oh, that's great. But my guy also collects. Oh, I don't know. I almost had Willie Mays in the Miata. I told him, I said, let's have Willie get in the Miata. Let's drive around. People will recognize me. They'll recognize you. They'll recognize Amici's. We got a bumper sticker on the back. You love the lemon pepper wings. Let's go to Amici's, and maybe we'll invite Trent Falk.
I want to go anywhere that Willie Mays is. But my concern with Willie is at no point in his career did he ever blow out an ACL. No point in his career did he have the kind of career-threatening injuries that, Coach and I talk about all the time.
I like toughness. I like the toughness that it takes to play football with one knee ligament. That's what I'm looking for.
I'm a football guy, Ralph, and I get the sense you're not a football guy.
Trent, you're always making a referendum on my toughness, and I told Tom, and just because I was a USF cheerleader does not mean that I wasn't tough. I was very tough in my day. I'm not saying I'm Al Capone. I'm a friendly paisan, but you know what? At the end of the day, I go to Amici's. I love my kids. I love my life. I love a good wager every now and then, but I'm pretty tough. I can be tough on Robert Gist. I was tough on Bob Quinn all those years. I told Sabes, get Salta La Macchia. I can be tough. I ask the tough questions. Sometimes I got to ask 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 questions before I can get to the tough questions. But I'm tough. Everybody knows I'm tough.
James Foster just paid $2 to say these are gold. The guy underneath him is doing the monkey, hear no evil, see no evil. Please stop doing this. These voices are big cringe, bro. Tell me you're not from the Bay Area. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Everybody, have a great Monday. Go tune into Damon's channel at 11. He's going to have Mike Sando on, and, I like a good Sando, and Mike's a killer guy, though I don't believe at any point he's ever torn his ACL. And listen to Croc and Krug at noon. They'll be talking a lot of Niners, and what I like about Croc is he's a football guy.